Hey guys, in this video we're going to be going over respiration, and respiration is a quite complicated process and you're going to be doing it in a lot of detail this year. So I've decided to make a whole video about it. So this is the third video of biology. Let's start. The circulatory system is a part of respiration. It's very important. It brings the whole body the nutrients the nutrients that they absorb from digestion, plus it removes the carbon dioxide from our body, takes the oxygen to every single part of the body, and it gives us energy. Gives us daily life energy. um, we start off with the heart, which is like the most important vessel of respiration. It's like a powerhouse that pumps blood our whole life, like even when you're sleeping. That's pretty obvious. Anyways, it pumps blood to our brain, to all of our muscles, so they don't get tired. And when you exercise, your muscles need more oxygen and glucose, so your blood pumps faster and faster. Also, it carries away waste products such as CO2, and its cardiac muscle means it keeps on going. Unlike our normal muscles, this keeps on going and doesn't get tired. Um, the atrium muscles and the ventricle muscles, as you can see, they're labeled 1, 2, 3, 4. The atrium, as you can see, are the top right and top left, and the ventricles are the bottom right and bottom left, and they all pump. And with all this pumping power, the blood is pumped to all our bodies. It's the inside of the muscle is very smooth. It's very stable, and it's also very flexible, so it allows it to pump. When it pumps, it kind of contracts, so it has to be flexible as well. The lining of the muscle, the inner lining, is made up of these things called endothelial cells, which is like a very smooth layer of cells. So blood doesn't kind of get stuck, you could say. It carries on smoothly. Um, what happens to the blood is it goes into the atria, as you can see over here on number 1 and number 3. It when it fills up, the atria squeezes, and as you can see the valve, it goes in the ventricle, and the moment it goes in the ventricle also squeezes, so the blood is pumped everywhere. And as you can see, this is one beat. So if you put your hand over your heart, you can see that when you see one beat, it means your atrium and ventricle are both pumping. So what different parts make up the heart? We already covered this, but there's the left and the right side. The left side is the oxygen, the blood without the oxygen, and the right side is blood with oxygen. So it practically the left side gets the blood and pumps it into the blood, while the right side pumps it to the rest of the body. And when the left side pumps it to the lungs then as it the left side is a deoxygenated blood, so it has carbon dioxide but very little oxygen. So when it pumps it to the lungs, we then breathe out, and the oxygen is removed, and when we breathe in, it goes to the right side, and then that blood is pumped everywhere. And as you can see, there are valves as well over here that stop the blood from going from the ventricles to the atria, so backflow doesn't happen. Next we have CO2. How is CO2 excreted? The respiratory system helps. As I said, the red blood cells carry the hemoglobin, or the plasma in the red blood cells carry the CO2 from the veins. It goes to the heart, and that's the deoxygenated blood. So then it goes to the lungs, where the carbon dioxide is then diffused from the capillaries to the um, to the lungs, and gas exchange happens, and then you exhale, which means CO2 is taken out, and then you inhale, and the whole respiratory system starts over again. Anyways, there are three blood vessels that carry and or transport the blood to our whole of our bodies. First, there's the capillaries. The capillaries are really thin; they're only one cell thick, which is really good, as then gas exchange can occur. And gas exchange means oxygen is diffused into the blood or diffused out of the blood. And a way to help this is the layer has to be extremely thin, so then gas exchange or diffusion can occur very easily. Next, we have the arteries that carry blood away from the heart. And you don't need to learn the names of the layers, that's not important for now. but you need to know that there are 3 layers, and and the overall size of the arteries is really thick, and this is because it's carrying blood away from the heart, means it's full of oxygen, and it's really it goes under a lot of pressure, so it cannot collapse, it cannot run that risk. Next, there are veins, which also have 3 layers, but they're much thinner, as you can see over here. And another thing about veins is that they have these valves, as you can see, so blood doesn't go back, and they carry it to the heart, so it's fine if they're thin because they don't have to undergo a lot of pressure. Next, we have the red blood cells and hemoglobin. Well, the red blood cells, as you can see, have this certain shape where it's like thicker, you could say, on the outside, so it's kind of like a ring. And this is the best, as when it goes through the different blood vessels, the oxygen and everything is right on the edge. So if gas exchange needs to occur, it can happen really quickly. While in contrast, if it was in the middle, the gas would have to travel the small distance to the outer layer of the red blood cells. But right now, it's already at the outer layer, so this is really efficient. Um, well, what is respiration? So what happens is when oxygen and glucose combine, and they form a chemical reaction that releases water, which is practically sweat, plus carbon dioxide, which we breathe out, and energy that we use. And the chemical equation is given below, and it would be really smart to memorize this because you'll be getting this in a lot of tests. Next, how do we get the glucose we need for respiration? Well, as you might remember from my last video, the digestive system video, that the small intestine gives us the glucose, but I didn't go into much detail. Anyways, as you can see in the diagram, the pink big tube, it's a small intestine. And as you can see, there are small hair-like things inside there, which are called villi. And the villi are covered with capillaries. So when glucose gets there, the glucose obviously touches the villi, and the villi have really thin walls, and they're surrounded by capillaries. So then the glucose diffuses within the bloodstream, and it's carried throughout every single muscle in our body. So then we get energy, and we get energy because oxygen is also carried along with everywhere. So those two react, and we get energy. And another thing I forgot to mention is that the capillaries, the red blood cells in our stream move extremely fast. But what the capillaries do is that the opening of the capillaries is just barely small enough so the red blood cells can pass. So the red blood cells kind of have to squeeze through and thus slow down. So when the red blood cells slow down, gas exchange happens much more efficiently versus if they're just rushing through. And yeah, that's it for this video.